Hi folks, HR Funk here. Over the last year or so, I've reviewed several handguns from the Turkish firearms manufacturer Tisas, and to date, all of them have been one variation or another of the 1911 pistol design, and as a rule, I've been very impressed with all of them that I've reviewed. But today, I've got something a little different from Tisas. This is going to be the first time that I'm reviewing a Tisas polymer frame striker fire pistol. Specifically, this is the Tisas PX-9 third generation tactical threaded pistol. And in this review, we're going to be taking a close-up look at this handgun. I'm going to tell you all about its features and functions. I'll tell you about everything that comes with it. And I'll tell you right off the bat, this is quite a value. Now, I've not fired this pistol yet, so I can't speak to its functioning at this point. But these handguns have an MSRP of $359.99, i.e. $360. And for that price, you're getting a lot with these handguns. And if it functions well and the accuracy is decent, it's going to be hard to top this in terms of a value. So with that introduction out of the way, let's take a close-up look at the PX-9. And before we get into this review, I want to say thanks to House of Pain Armament for supplying the PX-9 for this video. This would not be possible without their assistance. And remember, if you go to House of Pain, you can use my discount code there, which is HRFunk10, and that'll save you 10% off your purchase from House of Pain. Now on with the review. So we'll kick off this review of the Tisas PX-9 pistol by taking a look at the manner in which it comes home with you from the store. And to begin with, you can see that it comes in a nice lockable hard case. This is a very sturdy hard case. And as I open this up, I'll say that Tisas has sort of taken a page from the playbook of another Turkish firearms manufacturer, that being Canik, with the presentation of these handguns and also the accessories that are packaged with them. You can see the owner's manual here, along with instructions for how to use the included lock that comes along. But turning our attention to the other accessories, you can see that it comes with cleaning gear. There is the handgun itself. It has 2 magazines. Thank you, Tisas. It always annoys me when I get a handgun that only has 1 magazine with it. There is an included holster that I'll give you a closer look at here in a little bit, and also replaceable back straps and side panels for the grip, and I'll get into that as we get further into the review. And there is a detachable magazine well that you see here, also a replacement for the fiber optic front sight, as well as, and it's kind of hard to see back in there, but an optic mounting plate. All of this comes with your handgun, and as I said, this has a very low MSRP. It's essentially an MSRP of $360 that includes all of this. And you're not going to have to shop too hard to find it for prices less than that MSRP. But as we get further and further into this review, as I said in the opening, I think you're going to see what a value this handgun is. So I've taken the PX-9 out of its case, but for the moment I've left the holster attached. And you can see this is kind of a minimalist holster, but it can be set up either as an inside the waistband or outside the waistband configuration. And the pistol fits very snugly inside there. It does lock in place. It is not going to fall out of there. So you get a pretty decent holster that comes along with your pistol for concealed carry use basically right out of the box. And at last we've arrived at the PX-9 pistol itself. And there are several different variations of this handgun available from Tisas. Specifically, this is the PX-9 tactical threaded model. This is a 3rd generation of the Tisas polyframe striker-fired handguns. As such, it incorporates some improvements over previous versions. And the thing that strikes me as I look at this handgun now and think about the fact that this qualifies as a budget handgun these days is how different the situation is presently from back when I was a young police officer and had to purchase my very first duty handgun. In those days, there was the handgun that I wanted and the handgun that I could afford. I ended up going with the handgun that I could afford, which was a decent firearm, but in making that purchase, I did have to make some compromises in terms of sights and finish and one thing and another. And just looking at the way this handgun is outfitted right out of the box and thinking about some of the accessories that come with it, it is just so different these days for anyone that's in a situation where they are on a limited budget or limited means and they need a handgun for self-defense, for use at their occupation or what have you, and you can get so much more for your money these days, even in terms of a budget firearm, as opposed to back in the day when I was first starting out. Moving on to our top-down look at the Tisas PX-9, we can see the rear sight is a serrated black sight, and this sight fits a dovetail that's compatible with Glock 17 sights. So if you want to switch this out for some other type of sight, you can do so, and any sight that's intended to fit a Glock 17 dovetail will fit this dovetail. The front sight is a fiber optic that you can see there. See if I can make this a little bigger for you. It also has a serrated face, and one of the things that I really like about this front sight is it is squared off at the top. So sometimes when I'm shooting a handgun with fiber optic sights, and there's a look at the sight picture, the round fiber optic element just doesn't lend itself real well to good accuracy. But with this handgun, and I'll focus in on the front sight again here, or at least try to, with this handgun, with that squared off front sight, I can line that up very well with the rear sight and try to get very, very good accuracy. So I'll be interested to see when we get out to the range just what kind of accuracy this handgun is capable of, or at least what kind of accuracy it's capable of with me shooting it. Also, we can see this is an optics ready handgun. This cover is for an optic mounting platform underneath, and the platform is compatible with anything that fits a Holosun, or excuse me, a Trijicon RMR footprint, to include the Holosun sights, and I had that on my mind because that's what I'm planning on installing on this later on. And I probably should also mention that any optic that has that RMR footprint mounts directly to the slide without need for an optic mounting plate, so that allows it to co-witness well with the included factory sights. Moving on to the slide itself, the slide is manufactured from forged carbon steel and coated with an FDE Cerakote that you can see here. It has both forward and aft cocking serrations. It also has a loaded chamber indicator that's incorporated into the extractor, and I'm going to grab a dummy round and at least attempt to show you this. So here is our dummy round loaded into the magazine, and I didn't say it, I don't think, yet in the video. I think a lot of people probably know if you're already watching, but this handgun is chambered for the 9mm Parabellum cartridge. And I've cycled that dummy round into the chamber, and there is a tiny, tiny sliver of red paint right there, and I'm going to have to grab a flashlight and try to illuminate that so maybe you have some hope of even seeing it. So I have talked many times in past reviews about how I do not like this type of a loaded chamber indicator, and this might be the worst one I have ever seen. If you're out on a day with very bright sunlight, you might be able to see that. In any kind of adverse lighting, even if it's just a little overcast, I don't think you're going to be able to see it. So the lesson here is don't trust these loaded chamber indicators. Check your chamber and see if it's loaded or not. One last thing about the slide before we move on, because this is one of the things that has been changed in the 3rd generation pistols. They have changed the contours to make the slide look a little more SIG-like. And I like this as opposed to the previous generations of this pistol. I just think that looks much better. The PX-9 also has a cocked striker indicator. When the action is cocked, you can see that protruding from the rear there. Now this does not give any indication as to whether or not there is a round in the chamber. This just simply indicates that the action is cocked, and it is tactile. You can feel it. And when the action is not cocked, it's not there, and obviously it can't be felt. The barrel of the PX-9, or specifically the PX-9 threaded tactical model, is 5.1 inches long. This is a cold hammer forged barrel, and it has a threaded barrel, as the name implies. The thread pitch is 1/2 by 28 threads per inch, and it has a rubber O-ring to keep the thread protector in place. I like this because it annoys me to have to stop shooting every so often and check my thread protector and make sure it's not coming loose. And someone mentioned in a video recently where I was talking about that manufacturers don't include O-rings. I apparently didn't know what I was talking about. Obviously, some manufacturers do, and Tisas is not the only one, but I am glad they do, and that little thing just is very convenient for not having to worry about losing that thread protector. Turning our attention to the frame, it is obviously polymer, also colored in flat dark earth to match the slide. And I have no idea what specific polymer compound this is, but it does feel a little more plasticky than some of the more expensive pistols. That's probably one of the things that helps keep the price down with the PX-9. It's not anything that would really concern me if I were looking at purchasing this pistol, but it just doesn't quite have that tactile feel that some other handguns do. And that also extends to the texturing on the grip. It just doesn't hold on to your hand quite as well as some other polymers with similar texturing. But again, I don't think the pistol is going to come out of my hand. I don't think I'm going to have any problem controlling it. It's just something I notice as I handle it. Looking at the texturing itself, we can see that the grip is textured all the way around its circumference. The grip design itself, in terms of shape and configuration, feels very good. There are 2 additional back straps and I think 4 additional replaceable side panels. And according to the Tisas website, there are 27 different configurations that you can come up with for your handgun to get it to fit your hand properly if you use all those different back straps and interchange them with all the different side panels. So I don't know anyone who might need to change out that many times to find something that's going to fit, but if you do, you have the ability with this handgun. There is also texturing on the front of the trigger guard if you like the finger forward hold. The rear of the trigger guard is undercut to help give you a little bit higher grip on the pistol. There is a textured area on either side at the front of the frame, and this is for either the thumbs forward grip or to give you an index point for your trigger finger when it's not inside the trigger guard. But one of the things that I notice as I grip this with a thumbs forward hold is my thumb rests a little bit more naturally on the takedown lever than it does all the way up there on the frame. And the nice thing about that, and I don't know if this was intentional in the design or if this is just something that worked out this way, is the shape and contour of the takedown lever is pretty similar to a lot of the so-called gas pedals that are used on handguns these days. So if you're someone that likes the gas pedal to try to hold down muzzle flip, you've essentially got that incorporated into the takedown lever on the PX-9. And as you see here, there is a 4-slot equipment rail at the front of the frame for adding lights, lasers, or whatever other type of accessories you might want to attach. The magazine well at the bottom of the grip is beveled, and also we see the screw hole there for attaching the extended magazine well that I showed you inside the box. I probably would not add this for my purposes, but if you're someone who wants that larger magazine well, all you have to do is use the screw and attach it to the bottom of the grip, and you have that. Also visible at the bottom of the grip is the pin right here. If you drive that pin out, that's what allows you to remove the back strap and the side panels and configure that into those 27, I have a hard time saying 27 different types of configuration with all those grip panels and back straps, etc. For controls on the PX-9, there is really only the slide stop that you see here. And this is a non-ambi slide stop. The takedown lever that I mentioned previously, and also the magazine release, which is textured, and it also has a slight guard here that's molded into the frame. The magazine release is reversible, so if you need to, you can swap it to this side, but it is not truly ambidextrous. To disassemble this version of the PX-9, you first remove that thread protector. Then lock the slide to the rear and rotate the takedown lever 90 degrees. Release the slide. You do have to press the trigger. You can then remove the recoil system, which is a dual recoil spring and guide. There's a close-up look at that cold hammer forged barrel. And a look at the machining on the inside of the slide, which really looks quite good. I don't see any chatter marks or any other machining imperfections there. There is also a striker block safety right here. And there are some versions of the PX-9, at least according to the owner's manual, that come with a manual thumb safety. Obviously, this one does not have one. There's a look at the frame. Very basic, very simple, and probably very reliable. Reassembly of the pistol is very simple and obviously in reverse order of the disassembly. Simply reinstall the barrel and the recoil system. Position the slide back on the rails, if I can get it on there. There we go. Lock the slide to the rear. Return the takedown lever to its proper location. Reinstall the thread protector. Release the slide, and the pistol is reassembled. Now, as I said earlier in the video, the PX-9 does come with 2 magazines that you see here, and I don't think I mentioned it. It comes with a magazine loader as well. These are Checkmate branded magazines that you see right there, and there is an 18-round magazine that you see here with witness holes on the rear, and this is a 20-round magazine. It essentially has a 2-round extender here. So if you're someone that wants capacity, that gives you, what, 38 rounds, and one in the chamber would be 39 if you were carrying this handgun fully loaded with a round in the chamber and both magazines. So that should be plenty of ammunition for just about anything you might need. And again, we will see how these function when we get out to the range. Another thing to be aware of with these magazines, and some of you SIG owners out there may have noticed this, these are SIG P226 pattern magazines, so anything that will fit a 226, either factory magazines or aftermarket, will also fit the PX-9. So magazines are going to be plentiful and finding extras should not be difficult. Moving on to the trigger of the PX-9, we can see it does have the inertial safety right there, like so many handguns do these days. In terms of feel, it feels pretty good. There is some creep. If you watch my finger there, you'll see that there's just a little bit of take up and the trigger stops, and there is some visible movement there before the break. But it doesn't feel bad. It feels pretty predictable. For reset, the reset is almost all the way back to the forwardmost position. Looking at that again, there's the reset. And really, the only thing that changes when I take my finger off is the inertial safety comes all the way back out. So if you're somebody that wants a super short reset, you're not going to get it with this pistol. But if you're someone who just likes a decent trigger, that is a decent trigger. I'm going to go ahead and weigh this with my Lyman trigger pull gauge, and we'll see where that trigger is breaking. All right, folks, as you can see, I've got the PX-9 set up in the vise. I've got my trigger pull gauge ready to go. Now, one of the problems I have using this gauge with a trigger that has an inertial safety like this one does is this roller has a tendency to want to roll up the safety and get higher and higher on the trigger, and it has less and less leverage, so it reads a higher and higher trigger pull, but it's not really accurate because when you pull this trigger, you don't have your finger all the way up here at the very top. You've got it more or less in the middle. So what I'm going to do is use this hand to try to keep that roller more or less in the middle of the trigger and hopefully get some consistent results here. And the first pull is 4 pounds, 1.5 ounces, so not bad at all, coming in at just over 4 pounds. Let's try pull number 2 and see what we get. Pull number 2, 4 pounds, 3.6 ounces. Let's try one more and see if we can get a 3-pull average. And the last one is 3 pounds, 12.9 ounces. But I don't know if you noticed it or not, that time The roller was a little lower on the trigger, so it got a little bit more leverage. But still, our 3-pull average is coming out at just over 4 pounds, 4 pounds, 0.7 ounces. So as I said before, the trigger feels pretty darn good, and I am looking forward to getting out on the range and seeing just how that trigger performs. When it comes to holsters, there are several holster makers listed on the Tisas website that manufacture holsters specifically for the PX-9. They include Crossbreed, Simply Rugged, SciTac, and Urban Carry. And also on the website it mentions that holsters for the SIG P320 and Springfield XDM may fit as well, but they recommend you test the fit before you purchase the holster and bring it home for your pistol. When it comes to the tail of the tape, all of the dimensions for the PX-9 tactical threaded model are listed in the owner's manual using metric designations. So rather than trying to recite these things and sound like I know what I'm talking about, I'm just going to hold this up. You can freeze the video, and then later on you can do the conversions yourself. What I will say is this is a full-size holster type handgun, similar in size to other types of handguns that would be appropriate for duty use and one thing and another. This is not really a micro-compact, subcompact, or anything that's going to lend itself real well to concealed carry, other than in climates such as where I live, where in the wintertime we dress with heavy layers of clothing. You could conceal this handgun pretty easily under garments such as that. And it occurred to me, I don't think I've yet given you a good close-up look at the port side of the PX-9. There is that tactical marking, I don't know if you can see it etched into the slide there. But while I have it set up this way, I can tell you that these handguns come from Tisas USA with a 1-year manufacturer's warranty against defects in material and workmanship, and they also have a lifetime service plan, and that is for the lifetime of the handgun, not the lifetime of the purchaser. But if you have a problem with your handgun and you need it repaired, you can contact Tisas USA for information about how to get that taken care of. Now, that warranty and the service plan is void if you use reloaded ammunition or hand-loaded ammunition in these pistols, so be aware of that. And that's going to do it for the up-close shop review. Part 2 of this video will be the range report, and in that segment we'll head off to the range and see how the PX-9 shoots. In the meantime, if you have any questions or comments about this video, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 7% off your purchase from Optics Planet. Also remember the discount code from House of Pain. And again, I want to say thanks to House of Pain Armament for loaning me the PX-9 for this review. If you go to House of Pain, you can use my discount code there, which is HRFUNK10, and that'll save you 10% off your purchase from House of Pain. And last but not least is the Target sponsor for the channel. Go to Target's online, check out their inventory, and see if they have anything that's going to meet your Target needs. Until next time, folks, good shooting. Bye-bye.